When we talk about Sasha, a lot of the discussion tends to relate to her parents. This is for a number of reasons, some of which are justified and some of which I think are kind of oversimplistic. There are too many viewers of Amphibia who have a very Manichaean, one-dimensional view of Sasha as this vile manipulator, but they don't want to be too harsh on her. So they say that, oh, she's only like that because her parents, intentionally or otherwise, conditioned her to be this vile manipulator, to take advantage of people, to exploit them for selfish gain. Now, I have a problem with this reductionist idea of Sasha, because I don't think that she's callous or selfish. By Season 2, I wouldn't even really call her an anti-hero. She's just a basically good person who nonetheless has quite a few flaws that she's aware of, but is still struggling to improve on. She's like a lot of people in that regard, myself included. She's a courageous person. She's very savvy, but not in a cruel way. I'd say she's selfless, not selfish. I think she cares a lot more for other people than she does for herself, and she is extremely loyal. These are good qualities, but they are nonetheless undermined to an extent because she has a bad tendency of projecting what she believes people want onto them instead of actually listening to what these people actually want. Even in Season 1, when her character is at its most questionable, everything she does because she wants to bring Anne back home. Not because she necessarily has a burning desire to return to Earth, but because she believes that it's what Anne really wants. All of the unfortunate actions that she takes, from the attempted execution of Hop Hop to staying with Grime even after he has kept her as a prisoner for quite a long time, should be considered in the context of Sasha's ultimate desire to get herself and her friends back home, more for their sake than for her own. Now, this is not to excuse everything she does, and it is certainly not to excuse the one completely indefensible action she takes, wherein she tries to kill Sprig for no other reason than that he has become closer with Anne than Sasha has ever been, even though Sasha, has been Anne's best friend since they were little kids, and Sprig just met Anne a couple months ago. Her rage and bitterness and resentment are understandable, but of course they do not justify her attempting to kill Sprig out of a fit of passion. All of this is just to say that she is not a cold-hearted manipulator. She does understand how people's minds work, and she knows how to get them to do what she wants, but she genuinely believes that she's using this power to their benefit. She considers herself a strong and mostly compassionate leader, and she's not altogether wrong about that. She just has a lot of problems to work on. And I would not at all call her selfish. Season 1 Sasha is an anti-hero. In Season 2, she, after a short period of denial, makes the difficult decision to start examining herself and start looking at her own faults and the problems with her relationships with her friends. She makes an extended exertion to try and be a better person. And I respect that. It's not altogether successful, but she does not give up on that endeavor. And she understands that it is something she needs to do, which is not something I can say for Anne and Marcy. Both of whom are flawed, but both of whom, especially Anne, are not quite as aware of their flaws as Sasha is of hers. Yes, Sasha makes quite a few unfortunate comments, but these should not offset the progress that she has made. Even her so-called betrayal at the end of Season 2 should not really even be called that. It's just her, this anxious 13-year-old, having to make a very difficult decision between the friends she really cares about and wants to help and the toads who have entrusted her with their lives and their fates. She's trying to walk the very, very thin line of wanting to do right by both parties, and the result is that she nearly gets herself killed by Anne after Anne shouts that she is never going to be friends with Sasha again. But even then, and even though Anne ignoring Sasha's advice is a major reason why True Colors turns out like it does, with its tragic ending of Marcy dying, Sasha still desires to help Anne. So to recap, I would never say that Sasha's parents shaped her into a cold and troubled person, because I do not really view her as a cold and troubled person. And honestly, I think the tendency among a lot of fans to view everyone who is not completely squeaky clean perfect as a horrible person who needs a lot of atonement in order to become even close to decent is a tendency that I, as a reasonably mature person, have no time for. That said, what do I think of her parents? That is a question that needs addressing. We have seen Anne's parents, we've seen a lot of Anne's mom, and we have seen a little bit of Marcy's parents. We know what they were like, even though we don't really know a lot about them. Like Marcy, Sasha never talks about her parents. And like Marcy, Sasha has no desire to return home, so it's safe to say that she did not have a particularly great home life. Also, the curious comments that she makes regarding Anne's parents and Anne's desire to go home to them only really makes sense, I believe, in the context of Sasha not having the warmest relationship with her own parents, and thus not knowing why Anne would choose her parents like that. The only other option would be that Sasha has something personal against Anne's parents, which seems very unlikely. Still, we do not know what exactly Sasha's parents were like, so I believe that all we can do is guess from her behavior. Sasha's parents have not messed her up by any means, but they have affected her profoundly as a human being. There are a few little aspects of Sasha's character that I believe she did pick up from her parents, such as that end of discussion glare, which is heartless in a way that honestly does not really match with the rest of her character. I've seen some people based on that think that Sasha's parents were quite controlling, like Marcy's, but I don't think that's necessarily likely. I don't think Sasha's parents were close to her, and I think that they used that end of discussion thing on her more than once, but Marcy's parents at least believe they care about her. I don't really believe Sasha's parents were there for her at all. Think about the traits one associates with Sasha. Her willfulness, her relative independence at a young age, and her yearning to project bravado and confidence and almost arrogance. All of these are traits that I typically associate with someone who is trying to make up for a deep sense of loneliness and loss, and is trying to emerge from that, and is trying to sublimate all that sorrow and all those missed opportunities for connection into something positive. She's trying to fend for herself because no one else will fend for her. And Sasha does it well enough that it's quite impressive, but although I would not say this is entirely a coping mechanism, I do think that it should be consider that these aspects of Sasha's personality are not those that would have necessarily developed had Sasha had the support she really should have. Also, we must consider two very important other aspects of Sasha's character, those being her passionate, burning desire that people think well of her, and her tendency to clasp hard onto the friendships that she has, even though being a popular and successful person, she could get a lot of other friendships quite easily. Anne of the three is the least interested in ensuring the survival of their friend group. She'd rather the three of them be friends, but she was more than willing to stop being friends with Sasha. And she's the kind of person who has already become closer to Sprig, this frog she's known for like 3 to 6 months, than she was to her friends back on Earth. That's how easily she forms these friendships. Marcy is not as open, so it makes sense that Marcy clasps tighter to the friendships she has, especially since she is otherwise so lonely. But Sasha's a little different, because Sasha is as capable of making connections with people as Anne is. But Sasha always seems like she's trying harder to do it. Like it's work for her in a way that it's not for Anne. Sasha, unlike Anne, places inordinate value on the friendships that she already has around her, that meaning her friendships with Anne and Marcy. These two are probably the first friends she has. They might have been the only friends she has, and not just that, they might have been the only people who were really there for her. Sasha has a hard time, it seems, forming very close friendships with someone. She's not great at opening up. So, to have these two people who know her well, who have always been there for her, who she knows she has always been there for, that's very important to Sasha, and she does not want to lose those friendships. She wants to look good in front of Anne and Marcy. We see that even in the scene where they meet when they're little kids and she's acting like a superhero in order to protect them. Sasha does this because she wants them to think that she's a good person. Now, this is not the same as wanting people to worship her. Sasha does not want people to worship her. I mean, she doesn't necessarily mind it, but she does have a problem if people just are lackeys and just obey whatever she says without offering any resistance or any opinions of their own, as we see demonstrably in the Battle of the Bands. Sasha does not want lackeys, she wants actual friends, actual people who she respects and cares about, who view her highly, who view her as a person they can rely on. She wants people to like her for her, not because she's rich or because she's popular, but because of her innate qualities. This is extremely important to Sasha in a way that I don't think Anne could really understand. Marcy is a little closer, but Marcy's situation is different. Marcy just wants someone to be there for her. Sasha wants someone to be there for her, but also think of her in a positive and laudatory light. This is not a bad characteristic to have, and it's not a bad place to turn all those negative, desperate feelings resulting from the loneliness I believe that she suffered into. Sasha wants to be better than her parents, I believe. She wants to be thought of as the kind of person that her parents probably were not. A good, honest, helpful person. So seeing Anne cut ties with her like that must be really devastating for Sasha. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching Amphibia. I'm so glad the show is going to come back soon. I can't wait to see all the wonderful information they keep giving us about these characters, and I'm really interested to see if they give us more information about Sasha. She's very enigmatic. Anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.